Hey guys, it's Christian Singh here, back from C&H Smallings again for another informative review video about snowblower and stuff like that. Sorry about the wind, but it's extremely it's blowing pretty good out here today, so I apologize for that. It's on Saturday right now, and it's getting pretty nice outside, and we got a lot of wind up here in the hill, so I apologize to the wind noise you're probably going to be hearing throughout the video, so just making a note of that right now. The guy got a Sears CRAFTSMAN 5 horsepower. Electric start Sears CRAFTSMAN 21-inch non-self-propelled snowblower here. He called us up as he claimed he bought this machine a couple years back and basically just let it sit in his shed for a couple of years, and he never actually used it other than the time whenever he first bought the machine off his buddy. And he brought it over to us because the machine was not starting at all. Basically, he pulled and said he started complaining about his back hurting him and stuff like that after he pulled like 50 times or something like that. That's what he was claiming, but I honestly don't know. And we checked it out over here, and we got checked out by us, and his entire fuel system on his machine was basically completely clogged. The carburetor on the back down here, I'll show you what it looks like down here. They also have the little nifty up scoop on here, as I call it, on the carburetor. And the whole carburetor down inside, plus the throttle linkage on there, it was basically completely gummed up. I don't know what this guy used in there before, but apparently it had been sitting for practically 2 years straight, and the entire carburetor inside was almost like a brownish black sludge in there for that. And I asked the guy if he put any type of stable or clean gas before he put it away and his shit, and he said no. And apparently that's probably what caused the overall issues for that. Me personally, I don't recommend using anything like stable or anything else like that, because I had multiple people basically go down to Napa and Advance and like pick up a ball, that stuff, and basically dump it right into their tank on the side of it over there. And the problem is with that is it basically is heavier than gasoline, and it goes directly to the carburetor and basically stays down there, and over time it gums up the carburetor. And we never recommend putting stable directly into your tank. It must be first mixed in like a 5-gallon or a 1-gallon tank, preferably a 5-gallon, because as most people know, like me personally, Napa and Advance and most of those guys, all they are is parts jockeys that basically sell parts and don't offer any type of expert advice on servicing and repairing stuff out there. The only thing they do is sell parts. That's their specialty. I don't like telling people that, but that's what they do, and that's all they do down there for that. If you want something repaired, you got to go to a mechanic. So that's all I tell people out there. I told them that's my personal opinion, but it's usually the case. It's true, because they don't have any mechanics on staff down there. All he has is sales kind of reps, and that's all they have down there for that. Well, this guy got an excellent machine here for one thing. It's a 2003. I probably forgot to mention that as well too. And this thing is basically one of the smoothest running machines I ever had over here. Basically, majority of the time whenever we get these things in over here, they do tend to have a surging problem after you clean a carburetor out, because it's a non-adjustable style carburetor, as most people know, because these newer ones, especially the ones made after 2000, they tend to be non-adjustable to begin with anyway, and that creates a problem sometimes out there. No matter how many times you clean a carburetor out, it's still surging for whatever reason out there for that. And you either tell the customer they have to live with it, or you can slap a new carburetor on it, and that usually gets rid of the surging on there for that. And he has a lot of auger material left down. You can see the augers, the rubber pieces on here. The only drawback with this setup is they're actually riveted on there, which means if they ever get down to the point where they're no longer functional and able to throw the snow, you have to either put a new auger assembly down there, or you guys got to cut off every one of those damn bolts on there, or I should say nut bolts, every one of the we want to call it the pop. They're basically riveted on there. That's, I should say, they're all riveted on. So you basically had to cut every one of the rivets off. Then what they have is they either have a you can either buy a new auger assembly, that's a whole metal and rubber piece attached already, or you can get the repair kit, as they call it. It's new rubber pads, plus they actually include bolts and nuts as an upgrade, as opposed to the original factory OEM design for that. So that's a different options. So you can either go the expensive route and spend probably about over $100 for a new auger assembly underneath there, or you can get the cheapy route that's usually about, I'd say about $20 to $40. I think the last time I checked it, but that's basically what they do with these ones that do not have bolts on them. You can see this one is still pretty good because it's making contact with the ground out there. For that, it's rubbing directly on the ground right there, as you see right there. So it's pushing perfectly fine against the ground and able to throw and lift the snow properly. And let me see what else we can talk about right here. There's the front end right there. You can see it right there, 21-inch auger propel. They call it auger propel because basically the augers are basically digging into the ground. It'll basically progressively pull the self forwards on her. So it's basically a cheap and dirty version of self-propelled on her for that. And it's electric start. It does have the optional provision for the electric start, but he didn't say there was nothing wrong with it, so I'm not even going to even test it out because of that fact. The other thing is this guy, whoever bought off of the spark plug, is extremely tight in there. It's tight to the point where I'm not even going to attempt to even take the thing out because I'm not going to strip the head and have to replace the head or helicoil the head basically on there, because things running perfectly fine with a spark plug in there. So I'm not even going to attempt to remove the spark plug because, as I said before, I basically what I did was I put about a 1/2 inch driver on there with the 3/4 inch socket for the spark plug, and it would not budge. I hit with a hammer a couple times, it would not budge. So I'm just going to leave it in there rather than having the issue of liability that the thing possibly is either cross-threaded or somebody just over torqued it and it can possibly be stripped out down inside it. So I'm not even going to worry about that as well too. This guy had to have, I forgot to mention, he had to have a new fuel line put in there, new fuel filter. The fuel filter he had on here, it had a bunch of black specks in it. I don't know what the hell they were, but it was full of black specks in there. I don't know if he had a bad gas tank and had debris down inside, but it needed replaced. The fuel bowl needed to be replaced because he had corrosion pitting all on the upper lip. The float needed to be replaced. He had an older style float. It looks like somebody may have taken this thing apart previous to us on her, and they detonated the bolt because after we got done soaking the carburetor, it had so much debris and called sludge from the gasoline bill of varnish on there. It basically unclogged a couple pinholes in the float, because anytime you take a carburetor off, it's a good idea to leave the float soak in a carb solution for probably a couple hours, because if there's any problems with it, it'll probably show up after the after the fuel varnish is taken off there, because it can hide real small pinholes and cracks and stuff like that in the actual seals between the upper and the lower halves of the float itself. So it's always a good idea to do that, because you don't want to be telling a customer that the float's good, and you check the float out, and then about a couple hours later you find out the float's bad and has to be replaced, and you have to go back and revise your estimate for the job to begin with. And let me see what else he needed. He needed a new intake gasket on there as well too, because these intake gaskets are very delicate. Most of the time, whenever you take them off, they're either stuck to the intake manifold. They have a plastic rectangular block that goes to the intake manifold, or they'll be either stuck to a carburetor. So it's a good chance to always have intake gaskets for these machines in stock, because if you don't and if one breaks on there, you're gonna be shit out of luck and you have to wait a few days to get one there for that. So without further ado, I'll get this thing started here so you can see this thing running here as well too. So it should only take me one pull to get this thing going, because this thing really is smooth. I basically say it's probably the smoothest one I've ever seen after running under for that. So I'll fire it up here for you guys, see how it goes. So let me get this camera situated here for you. And there we go. Let me spin the augers over here so you see them working. Working good down there. So that's basically everything I can tell you about that machine. Got the Tecumseh. I probably forgot to mention it has the Tecumseh Snow King 2-stroke engine on there for that, as opposed to the 4-cycle bigger 5 horsepower one they put on the bigger medium frame machines out there for that. So that's basically my review of the machine here. Anybody has any comments, questions, whatnot, you know, just drop me a message here or just leave me a comment in the comment section down there, and I'll try to answer any questions you guys have about something similar to this, or if you have one identical to this thing. I do recommend keeping these things for as long as humanly possible, because these are basically a extinct breed of machines that they were no longer ever being made, so they will hold their value as long as you maintain them, keep them clean, and do not abuse them, to say the least, right there for that, because they will treat you well as long as you do those things I mentioned right there for that. So I'll see you guys. Have a nice day.